Hey, sorry, I had my wrong microphone on during the interlude sound, and so you guys may have heard me hacking around trying to clear my throat. I don't think I'm getting sick. I think it's just that time of year when the dry air sets in, finally sets into Middle Tennessee, and it just dries absolutely everything out. And so I've been trying to save my voice all day. I was just talking to a fellow podcaster, Jason Goodman, on the phone just a little bit ago. I had a really, really good conversation with him, and we're going to try to plan to do something together, not too terribly distant into the future. And he probably thinks I'm a psychopath because I was talking like this the whole time. I was like, "Hey, Jason, how you doing?" And he's like, "Yeah, yeah." He's peppy. He's got pep in his step, and I was talking like this. I was trying to save my voice for you guys. You're going to hear that crack tonight. I've been doing it all day. And so I will do my best to fight through it. I warned you guys a week or so ago, I lose my voice about once a year, and I hope this is not it coming because it does last about a week, and I sound ridiculous. I will still be here. I will still be here because I have so many shows lined up for this week that I don't want to leave you guys hanging. I just don't. I mean, there's a lot of stuff to cover. We're going to cover probably three really fun stories tonight. I hope I have enough time to get to the third story because the third story is the kind of reason I'm here. For those that are on the member video, the member side of YouTube, we had a member chat Friday afternoon for about an hour in the middle of the day, like 2 or 3 in the afternoon, 4 o'clock. I don't remember what time it was exactly. Because, ladies and gentlemen, my book came, or Joe's book came. Joe's book came. It's here. It's thick too, and I've been reading it. I've been taking notes. I've been highlighting sections. Joe, you've met your match. You've met your match. It's a high IQ outfit, Joe. So, yeah, we've got a lot to cover tonight. A whole lot to cover tonight. The opening statement's fun. This is one of the more fun opening statements I've put together in a while. I've had it kind of kicking around in my head. I just haven't known the right time to do it. And last night triggered me. I got very triggered last night. Well, I wasn't that triggered, but I had a good time last night with the family. And I had to sit down today and sort of recount it. So let me get into the opening statement. We've got a lot of news to get to tonight. Some breaking news. We will be uncovering things today. This is one of those shows. If you've been following the Charlie Kirk investigation, you want to text people and tell them to tune in. The first show we're going to cover. Well, actually, hold on. Let me make sure that's right. Let me make sure it's the first story. Let me get down to the lineup here. Yes, the first story we're going to cover tonight is breaking news. It has not been covered anywhere on any YouTube channel relative to the Charlie Kirk investigation, period, end of story. So if you know somebody who's following this investigation closely, you need to tell them they've got about 15 minutes because it's going to take me, when I did my read through on the opening statement today, it was 13 minutes and 27 seconds. I imagine I'll go a little quicker because the adrenaline starts kicking in when I see the red light. And that means I read a little quicker than I do normally. Oh, I almost forgot. I got a new teleprompter program. I'm not going to use it tonight because I'm still practicing with it. But it's awesome. It is awesome. So you won't see my eyes doing this the whole time in the openings in the future and looking off to the side and looking down at the screen. You're not going to see all that in the future. One day I'm going to perfect the ability to read a teleprompter. I'm going to look like a news reporter. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. All right. Let me see. I never clicked back over. Oh yeah. Hit the like button. Hit the like button. Like button, subscribe button, share. You're going to like this news tonight. You are going to love the news we're sharing tonight. Again, this is one of those where you just want to reach out to people and say, hey, there's some big news coming. Oh, brand new hoodie. I call this Vatican City ceiling blue. If you've been to the Sistine Chapel and you look up and you see all that beautiful blue, this is Vatican City ceiling blue. And this is the cloud. This is the cloud. This is not the other blue I have. I have another similar blue, but that's not it. That has an ink logo. The color of that logo is ink. This is a cloud logo. This is Vatican City ceiling blue cloud logo. Okay, I'm going to get into this opening statement, and then we are going to break some monster news on the Charlie Kirk investigation. You are not you might have been granted an entire chair. You will not need it. You will not need it. You will only need the forward third or so. You will be on the edge of your seat when we're covering that news. But first, the opening statement. In February of 1992, incumbent Republican President George Bush was visiting. Oh, actually, hang on. Let me get that. All right, I gotta get this pulled up so I can show you the picture when the time comes. Scratch that start. This is what you guys pay for. This is what you pay the big bucks for. You tune in for free so you can see me screwing around on the screen here. That's why you guys do this, right? Okay. Oh, man. Here, I'll do it on this screen. There we go. All right. Dang it. Hold on. It's you know what I'll do? I'm just going to show you the I don't want to give away the rest of it though. Man, I wish I was a professional broadcaster sometimes. It would be so wonderful. I wish you guys deserve so much better than this, me flailing around trying to show you a picture of George H.W. Bush. Actually, you know what? You're not going to see the picture of George H.W. Bush. I'll show it later. Just imagine later you see a picture of George H.W. Bush. All right, back to the opening statement. That will not be part of the program. All right, ready? This is a professional operation, ladies and gentlemen. February of 1992, incumbent Republican President George H.W. Bush was visiting a grocers convention in Florida. The visit was part of his hybrid duties of being both a president and a presidential candidate. Such dual-purpose appearances are not unusual in presidential politics. In fact, most of the final year of a first-term president often occupies this dual-purpose space of being both president and also running for president. At one point during his visit, executives from the completely appropriately named company, National Cash Register, demonstrated what at the time was cutting-edge technology that had been making its way into supermarkets around the country. We take the device for granted today, but it had, at the time, were advanced features, including a mechanism to automatically scan barcodes and a scale to weigh the produce. President Bush was mostly polite as he listened to their pitch. He remarked at one point, the machine's features seemed amazing. The New York Times took a cheap shot at sitting President George H.W. Bush with a headline that read, Bush encounters supermarket, amazed. The rest of the media ran with the narrative and painted President Bush as an elitist who couldn't possibly understand the plight of everyday Americans. The appearance of being out of touch with the very real problems Americans were facing during and perhaps as a result of the Bush presidency was devastating. The economy was beginning to sputter. Conservative Pat Buchanan was challenging Bush in the primary, forcing Bush further to the right than he wanted to be for the upcoming general election. Ross Perot and Bill Clinton were licking their chops at the possibility of facing a wounded incumbent in November. And no matter what President Bush tried, he could not shake from the public consciousness the image of him on the front page of the New York Times looking amazed at what most Americans saw as an ordinary cash register. President Bush might have been unfairly tarnished with this particular story involving his amazement at cash register technology, but many Americans were primed to believe the story because Bush was, as most presidents are, fantastically wealthy and generationally well-connected. President George H.W. Bush had been born into the established blue blood Bush family. He attended an elite boarding school. He went to Yale. He then moved to Texas, where he used his family's money and resources to found an oil company. He was elected to Congress in a district he'd only lived in a few years. He was appointed by President Nixon as ambassador to the United Nations. He became chairman of the Republican Party and then was appointed by President Ford as the special liaison to China. Ford later appointed him to be director of the CIA. It was on this resume that political insiders forced George Bush on Ronald Reagan when Reagan needed to announce a VP candidate in his 1980 White House run. George H. Bush nearly became president in 1981 instead of having to wait until 1989. On March 30th, 1981, John Hinckley Jr. allegedly shot President Ronald Reagan after a speaking engagement at the Washington Hilton Hotel. The official story is that Hinckley struck Reagan with a round from a revolver that ricocheted off the side of the presidential limousine and struck Reagan under his left arm, breaking a rib, puncturing a lung, and causing nearly catastrophic internal bleeding. As has become custom in high-profile neutralizations and neutralization attempts, that was one magic bullet. The alleged would-be assassin, John Hinckley Jr., hailed from his own politically connected family, the Hinckley family. His father, George Warnock Hinckley Sr., was the founder, chairman, and CEO of Vanderbilt Energy Corporation. Vanderbilt Energy had by 1980 become mired in legal problems and was facing increased scrutiny from the Department of Energy for alleged overcharges on crude oil sales from 1976 to 1980. By the time the 1980 presidential election rolled around, Vanderbilt Energy was facing the very real prospect of crippling civil and criminal fines and other legal consequences related to its alleged illegal activity. It was in this context that the Hinckley family became ardent and huge supporters of George H.W. Bush's 1980 presidential campaign. At the time, George Bush faced Ronald Reagan in the primary and was his only serious competition for the entire duration of the primary. Indeed, the relationship between the Bushes and the Hinckleys was more than just a candidate and his supporters. Both families, being Texas oil families, they had a lot in common. They crossed paths quite frequently. And one of the strangest facts in all of American political lore is that the brother of the would-be Ronald Reagan assassin was supposed to have dinner with Vice President Bush's son, Neil Bush, on the night of the attempted assassination. Let me clarify, because the facts need to be clarified so as not to be misunderstood. Just before 2:30 p.m., March 30th, 1980, John Hinckley Jr. allegedly tried to neutralize President Ronald Reagan. Had the neutralization been successful, George H.W. Bush would have been president of the United States before the end of that afternoon. On that very same evening, March 30th, 1981, I meant to say 81 earlier. It says 80 on my script, but I was wrong. On that very same evening, March 30th, 1981, when George H.W. Bush would have been elevated to the presidency by the alleged act of John Hinckley Jr., President Bush's son, Neil, was scheduled to have dinner with John Hinckley Jr.'s brother, Scott. Small world indeed. To their credit, Neil Bush and Scott Hinckley canceled their dinner. One wonders if perhaps the dinner was canceled because the Hinckleys' failed attempt, not because of the attempt itself. To add more intrigue to the story, you might not know that the psychiatric hospital where Hinckley was sent after the attempt had historical links to the CIA and CIA's MK-Ultra program. The CIA admits the MK-Ultra program was founded in 1953 and says it was halted in 1973. The documented purpose of the program was to discover methods to manipulate mental states and brain functions and to control the minds of non-consenting and unaware test subjects. The program tried psychoactive drugs like LSD and other chemicals, as well as electroshocks, hypnosis, sensory deprivation, isolation, verbal and physical abuse, and torture. The program was unveiled to the public by the 1975 Church Committee, headed by Senator Frank Church. The investigation was hampered by the CIA's willing and intentional destruction of files related to the program. CIA Director Richard Helms is alleged to have given that order. None of this, of course, definitively proves that Hinckley made an attempt on Reagan's life on account of an order by his Bush-connected family or because he was brainwashed by a CIA mind control program. But it does raise the issue of why more people don't know the full story of the attempt on Ronald Reagan's life. Why don't more people know about the Hinckley family's connection to the Bush family? Why don't more people know about Vanderbilt Energy and its legal problems that would have been solved overnight by a sympathetic president of the United States? Why don't more people know about the very real history of our government's attempt to control the minds of both witting and unwitting subjects? I thought of this story last night when Mrs. Coleman and I stopped by a Steak and Shake after running a few errands. If you're going to get fast food, you might as well stop by a Maha-inspired fast food chain. It has greasy French fries cooked in beef tallow instead of seed oils. This is not a paid product endorsement. It's just an honest account of where we stopped and why. When I went to place my order, I felt a little like the caricature of George Bush in the supermarket back in 1992. For context, I've been eating at this very same Steak and Shake location since I was in high school back in the 1990s. You used to walk in, grab a seat, and the server would come by and take your order. At some point along the way, the server was removed and you placed your order with a cashier at the register. Now the cashier has been removed and you have to take your own order on a touchscreen kiosk. The problem is that my orders aren't easy. I like to create orders at the Steak and Shake. I don't want cheese or buns, for example. I want my patty and burger trimmings on the plate with a bed of fries. I'm weird and I can accept that. And I grew increasingly frustrated at the impersonal nature of the encounter and the growing realization I wasn't going to get what I wanted. I wasn't talking to a human who could understand my admittedly strange order and make sure things come out the way I want them. So we left. We decided to stop by Shake Shack instead. We got to Shake Shack and ran into the same issue. Touchscreen kiosk, no human being. Some may not be bothered by this, but it bothers me. I don't want to give my order to a robot. I don't want to punch it in myself on a touchscreen kiosk. I want human interaction. I want human understanding. That's not me being an out-of-touch elitist who doesn't understand new technology. That's me being a human being. We long for connection, belonging, and humanity. There may eventually be no restaurant standing that hires actual human beings to interact with their customers. But until that reality comes to pass, I'll keep going to ones that do. And for the record, Mrs. Coleman and I went across the parking lot and dined at the restaurant where my daughter works. My daughter is the beautiful 19-year-old girl at the cash register taking customers' orders. So with that, that is the opening statement. I saw somebody in the comments saying, go to the drive-thru. I don't want to go to the drive-thru. I don't want to go to the drive-thru. Oh, yeah, somebody else said just use the self-checkout at the grocery store. I sat beside somebody the other day with 74 items in their cart, booping the boot machine one at a time. Boop. And then like 4 minutes would go by while they were fuddling. Can I get the UPC symbol? Boop. Took forever. It's absolutely miserable. Absolutely miserable. I guess I could show that picture now of George H.W. Bush. I just couldn't do it while my opening statement was up. Let's see here. This is George Bush at the boot machine. He was totally baffled by it. This picture basically undid his presidency. They put that picture in the New York Times with a story about how he was amazed at the cash register. And ordinary people looked at that and they were like, oh, he doesn't identify with us. I'm voting for the guy who plays sax from Arkansas. All right, let me get to the biggest news of the night. This is a real issue. There's a leak in TPUSA. And there's a leak in Brian Harpole's security company. And by comparing the leaks, I have been able to do some good old-fashioned shoe leather reporting. So I want to put up a schedule that Charlie Kirk was supposed to be on this fall before he passed away. I want to put up a schedule that Charlie Kirk was supposed to be on this fall. This is using the Wayback Machine. I had to use the Wayback Machine because TPUSA has hidden everything. They have made it absolutely nearly impossible to find anything. But this is the Utah Valley University Prove Me Wrong table. This is from September 7th, 3 days before Charlie Kirk passes away. This is what the American Comeback Tour website looked like. So we have September 10th. We have September 18th.
I wanted the word cuppa, as in cup of tea, I thought would be great to mix with hug. When I saw the domain was available, I was like, I'm taking it, I'm trademarking it, I'm going with it. Hi, I'm Aaron, I'm the owner of Cup of Pug. We are not a traditional cafe. When I saw Cup of Pug go live, that's when it all clicked. Huh?
Is because Brian Harpole, if you recall on the Sean Ryan show, said that they started prepping a couple of weeks before these events. In addition to these events, I will play a piece from the Candace Owens show Friday, where she talked about an event that was taking place on. Actually, let me put that on a different screen because I don't want to be looking sideways. Y'all think I'm weird. Where she talked about an event taking place the very next day. And this is important. I'm going to explain to you why I'm sharing all this with you in light of the very real leak out of TPUSA and out of Brian Harpole's security company. This is pretty devastating for them. This is going to cause real problems as soon as we announce this tonight. But here's how Candace Owens described the situation.
Well, interestingly enough, I received a tip from someone that was directly involved with the planning of an event that Charlie Kirk was supposed to attend the following day on September 11th, the day after his assassination. Charlie was slated to speak in Woodland Park, Colorado at the Charis Bible College. Okay, so that's in Woodland Park, Colorado. He was slated to speak there. And according to this person, after Charlie got assassinated, there was a bit of a panicked meeting that took place, which was headed by the chief of police. They decided to transform this event into a vigil, and they were panicked because, believe it or not, they had absolutely no security plan in place. They thought, how odd. We don't have a security plan in place. Now we better consider this, and we need to make sure that we have police officer involvement. Why didn't Dan Flood and Brian Harpole and Turning Point USA's security have any coordination with the police departments up in Colorado?
It's a good question, Candace. It's a great question, as a matter of fact. I'm going to go one step further tonight and report new details on that event. But I'm not going to do it yet because I next have to show you a second event that was scheduled to take place on September 19th and 20th. September 19th and 20th of the month. So we had a September 11th event, a September 10th event where he passes away. We have a September 18th and 19th event, or 19th and 20th event right here. This is the Culture and Christianity Conference. This is in Tennessee, I believe. Speaker lineup here. Charlie Kirk was scheduled to speak at the conference. Obviously, he was not able to make it. Has a nice lineup here. These are all fantastic. Well, there's some really fantastic people up there, and then there's some duds. I will say I like Sage Steele. I love Jason Whitlock. Eric Metaxas is a little bit of a dud. Rob McCoy, obviously, you know my thoughts on him. I like 2010 and 2012 Rob McCoy. If I could get that Rob McCoy back, that would be fantastic. Yeah, so let's just say there's a couple of people there that were all right. So no security on September 11th, according to Candace, when he was supposed to travel to Woodbury, Colorado. Then we find out he had an event September 18th and 19th, or excuse me, 19th and 20th, or 19th or 20th. We're not sure which. And if we go back to the American Comeback Tour, we find out that's not the only event. No, because remember, before the September 19th and 20th event, we have Colorado State University. Prove me wrong. Colorado State University, evening event. So he was going to be there all day, essentially, on September 18th in Colorado. And so I want to raise an issue for you. Actually, I want to play one more thing. I want to play one little clip here of Brian Harpole. I bit the bullet, guys. I did something none of you would do. I went and watched Brian Harpole on Gary from Paramount Tactical. I saved you the pain of having to do it. Trust me, you did not want to do this. I know you didn't because no one else did. I saw the numbers. It was every bit what you think it was. So don't worry about having to turn it on. And YouTube, if you get mad at all the firearms in the background, it ain't me. I would blur them out if I could, but I'm playing it on your platform. Now, I want you to hear what he says here. I want you to hear what he says here. This is Brian Harpole talking about what happened after the Utah Valley University event on September 10th. Listen to what he describes.
And it was due to one incident where after Charlie was assassinated, our world was upside down, and I couldn't even get home for a long time. Got home, was home temporarily, boom, right back up there trying to assist the family, the organization with anything they needed. You know, you're literally just like a sprinter waiting in the blocks.
Okay, two relevant facts there I need you to follow. One, he couldn't even get home. Did you hear that? I couldn't even get home. So that was fact number one. Did anybody catch a problem with that fact
We're
right
all
off the
strong
gate?
on this planet.
Right out of the gate.
One more, everybody.
He had an event the next night.
In today's video,
Why
I'm
was he
going
going
to
to
be
be
showing
going home?
you how to set up
So
green
that's problem
screen.
one, and that's not even the biggest problem. That doesn't have anything to do with the leak. That's all public information. Candace shared that he had an event the next day. I assume he would want to have security at his event. The only on-site, fully paid security would have been Dan Flood, presuming he was there. So that was number one. I couldn't even get home that night. Why were you going home? Why weren't you going to the event at Woodbury, Colorado the next day? And then the second thing was, and then he says, when I finally did get home, I was right back up there with those folks. I'm assuming he means Phoenix. So here's the news I'm going to break. And I want you guys to listen carefully to this because I'm going to use my words very, very cautiously. I do not want to have to repeat this a bunch of different ways if you guys can't get it. So I need you to tune in. I need you right here with me. Here is the reality. According to leaks out of TPUSA and out of Brian Harpole's very security organization. Here is the reality. Brian Harpole did not have a plane ticket home, is what I'm told. Brian Harpole did not have a plane ticket home from Utah Valley University. Nor did he have a plane ticket to Woodbury, Colorado, or anywhere near there. In fact, I'm told there was no plane ticket at all, that it was a one-way flight to Utah Valley University or to Orem or to Provo or Salt Lake City, wherever he flew in. It was a one-way flight, and there was no return flight scheduled. That's what I was told, and I believe this source. If there was a return flight scheduled, this insider doesn't know about it, can't find a record of it. So that's problem one. So when he says he couldn't get home, one wonders when he had planned to try to get home. So that's problem one. Problem two is we know when he booked the flight to Orem, Utah, or to Provo, Utah, or to Salt Lake City, wherever he went. We know that. How do we know that? Because it was on the receipt, the email he gave in preparation for his alibi. Oh, someone said Woodland Clark. Is it Woodland Park, not Woodbury? Whatever. I mean, I'll try to turn it up a little bit, but if it starts clipping, I'm going to turn it back down. I see you guys complaining over there. So I have a question. I think it's incumbent. This is almost Mitch Snow level report. I think Brian Harpole owes an explanation for, did he have a plane ticket out of Utah? Did he have a plane ticket to Woodland Park, Colorado, or Woodbury, whatever it is? And because we know he was to be in Fort Collins, Colorado on September 18th, and we know he booked the flight more than 2 weeks or right at 2 weeks in advance of the Orem, Utah appearance, Did he have a flight booked to the September 18th Colorado State University Prove Me Wrong event? Or, for that matter, did he have one booked to the September 22nd University of Minnesota event? Do you want me to spoil a little secret? You want me to tell you the answer to that question? Or do you think you already know the answer to that question? I'm told there was no flight booked to any of those. That's just what I'm told. Now, is it possible he had intended to get a flight back on the TPUSA Gulfstream 5 flight that they use? Yeah. It would have been unusual. Perhaps. It would have been unusual, perhaps. But I want to go to the second thing he said, because he said as soon as he got home, he turned around, he was right back to Phoenix. Well, actually, it was like almost a week later. And so I just don't find his stories credible. I don't find what he says believable. But I suppose that's possible. But I'm told that would be unusual. I'm told that would be unusual. So I think it's more consistent with Candace saying he had no security the next day. There was no security plan in place at the Colorado event. And the chief of police looked around and said, have you guys not talked to anybody from them? How do we not have a security plan in place? I mean, the guy can't complain that we're covering this. He's been on 2 national podcasts. He brought this on. I mean, he himself went on 2 national podcasts. Nobody was actually asking for him to get involved on a national level. So he's made himself something of at least a limited purpose public figure. But I was told he had no return flight booked from DFW, booked to DFW from Utah. I was told there was no flight booked to Woodland Park event the next day, no flight to Fort Collins, Colorado. Indeed, there was no flight anywhere booked that I could find, according to the sources, back to his home. And again, that just strikes me as very unusual. Very, very unusual. So that is, I think, somewhat, at least, not only breaking news, not only insider news, but at least it's additionally support for Candace's position that there was no security plan in place the next day. That's the way I look at it. That's the way I look at it. Okay. So I'm going to move on from that. I'm going to move on from Brian Harpole. I'm glad I only had to play like 28 seconds of that interview. Trust me, guys. Trust me, that's more than you wanted to watch. I can assure you, you did not want to see that. Now, here's the second thing I want to cover. We were all scandalized. Every one of us was scandalized when we had to look at the tent. When we had to look at the tent up at AmFest and people were taking selfies in front of the tent. Would you guys be shocked to know this isn't the first time the tent had made an appearance? You guys remember the Turning Point Tour went on, right? Mississippi State, LSU, Minnesota, Indiana, Ole Miss. Well, here's one of them. I actually don't remember which one this is. There's this one. That's at one of the stops. And there's this one. I think this was LSU. Oops, sorry. Oh, did I screw it up? Oh, yeah, I did. Let me go back. I'm not very good with the PowerPoint stuff. Here we go. If you, I think this is the LSU event here. This is either LSU or Ole Miss. LSU or Ole Miss, and then this was the other one, whichever one it wasn't. They have people taking selfies, again, under the tent. This was not unique to AmFest. So this wasn't like, hey, we're having the Super Bowl of TPUSA. We're going to Phoenix. We're having AmFest. It's our biggest event of the year. Charlie would have wanted to be here. This was his Super Bowl. Let's go ahead and put the tent out under which he was murdered. No, friends.